My name is Megan McKamey, and I'm with Go Beyond Profit. And we are so honored to be here today at Creature Comforts and want to thank Chris Heron and Matt Stevens and Randy and the whole team here for welcoming us under this pavilion and letting us be together. And for Rashe and Rashe's Cuisine for brilliant food that I hope everyone will feel very free to pop up and get a little bite to eat and get another something to sip on while we have our conversation. So I also need to thank my co-host for this event, which is the name you know better than mine, and that's Jon Williams. You all know him from a dedicated career of over 20 years in, flipping the page, construction and development. No, you know him as W&A Engineering, as the CEO and founder of that, and hopefully now have heard the new title, the CEO of Better Communities Collaborative, which is a new venture providing holistic service through a family of innovative businesses. But Jon is a member of Go Beyond Profit. He is a Go Beyond Profit Champion Award winner, which means he is an example in our minds of how businesses imagine the ways that they can operate generously and improve lives. That's the mission of Go Beyond Profit, to invite companies of all sizes across the state of Georgia into the conversation around how do you operate generously? What does that look like? And the members of Go Beyond Profit are 1,800 plus strong now. We've been around for about 4 years, founded by business leaders for business leaders. And our 1,800 are solo entrepreneurs and Fortune 500s, and they are in every town and city across the state. So to kick us all off today, we have a fabulous guest speaker, but I want to invite Jon up so that he can introduce her. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate you guys all coming out this afternoon. Thank you to Miss Rashe, first of all, for hooking us up with some great food over there, and for Creature Comforts for letting us be here today. Our guest speaker, our keynote speaker tonight is Miss Sarah McKinney, President and CEO of Athens Area Community Foundation. Also, I just found out tonight, is the president of the Rotary Club this year. So having her here today is a real special treat. I mean, mother of two, no doubt, and chasing them over FFA world all over the place. So we're glad to have Sarah here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jon. Good evening to everybody here and on the live stream. Sarah McKinney, where I have the incredible honor and privilege of leading the Athens Area Community Foundation. We're a public grant-making foundation here in Athens, and what that means is I get to give away money every single day for a job. It's incredible. But part of that job is deeply listening and understanding our community, which is sometimes very easy and sometimes very hard. Personally, I've been married for 21 years to Jon. He works at UGA. I have a 19-year-old who just came home with a boatload of stuff from ABAC, a freshman down there. I didn't realize that was a thing. And then a young lady who's rising a junior. We have a little sheep business, and I'll do anything to be outdoors. I've spent 22 years working in and around nonprofits in Athens. And if I think I know a little bit about something, I think I know a little bit about nonprofits and a little bit about philanthropy. And that's what I'd love to be talking to you guys tonight. My first kind of memory of a human that helped me best understand the intersection of nonprofits and philanthropy was a woman named Angela. Angela lived off of Whitehead Road, off of Route 16, which is a Meals on Wheels route that I delivered in my 20s. She answered the door every Wednesday when I delivered with her hands and her feet literally crippled with rheumatoid arthritis. At 54 years old, she was the primary caregiver of her mom, who, if you didn't know, lived there, was down the hallway to the right and bedbound with Alzheimer's. And Angela was just this incredible bridge between community and a meal and learning what it meant to care and deliver a nonprofit mission. And Angela needed us. And I eventually came to kind of need Angela. And I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. The statistics are very clear about giving. We had, in the United States, we saw over $471 billion deployed to charitable causes across the U.S. That's from Giving USA. Individuals were up, foundations were up, bequests were up. There was one sector that was down 6.1% since 2019, and that's the corporate sector. And I'm not here to shame that. I'm just here to otherwise generate kind of a new conversation in which corporations can begin to reimagine themselves, reimagine their culture, and reimagine their philanthropic commitments. I think the need to be philanthropic really rests in three key areas. One is ourselves, two, our community, and three, in the actual meaning of philanthropy. And when I say ourselves, it's the old Simon Sinek TED Talk, Start with Why. Why do you do what you do as a corporate entity in giving back to your community? What is it that you believe? When you marry your culture and your mission of your organization with the bridges to community and how you care, you'll see incredible results. Jon Williams is a great example. W&A Engineering has seen an incredible growth in employees, I think over 100 in the last 2 years, and I'll bet many of them are joining the W&A Engineering firm not just for what it is you do, but for how you care about community. I think philanthropy needs to rest in our community itself, in understanding that nonprofits are businesses too. There's exceptional nonprofits, there are mediocre ones, and there's some low-performing nonprofits. You can plug and play in there however you wish, but nonprofits are businesses too. And they're all showing up to solve some data point within our community. Education equity, housing volatility, transportation issues. Nonprofits are working on data that I think our companies need to be committed to understanding. Rashe, you'll hear from in a little bit, is an extraordinary example of a for-profit business owner who started a nonprofit to address food security issues in a blighted area of our town. She's anchored her for-profit business in the block, making a statement about what it means to anchor your corporation in a community that needs it. Lastly, I believe philanthropy needs to rest in the general understanding of what philanthropy means. Philanthropy, the root meaning in the Greek word, was the love of humankind. Simply, our need to be philanthropic is the great love we must have for our neighbor. It doesn't boil down to dollars or necessarily time. It's how we define the why and how we are willing to show up and love our neighbor. Bob Googe and Jittery Joe's is going to be a great example for you to see. You can't move about this town, and now I understand on St. Simon's either, and across our state, without seeing the Jittery Joe's brand and its commitment to care. What can you do with all of this? There's three kind of tangible action steps that I'd love for you to think about as you listen to the speakers tonight and you think about how to go beyond profit in your own businesses. Remembering nonprofits are businesses too. Think about how you can give, how you can serve, and how you can invest time. And I genuinely differentiate serving and investing time, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. When you give, I think it's the simplicity of brokering a dollar to the causes you care about, but understanding that data and marrying it to your why, and then trusting the nonprofit business that's on the receiving end with doing an extraordinary job. Connect your contributions, your corporate contributions to community. Get to know your community. When I talk about serving, it's the deployment of your greatest asset, which is your time and your staff. Your staff have the absolutely incredible opportunity to go and volunteer at book fairs, at soup kitchens across our community, and come back and feel better about their employment with you. And where I might feel most comfortable serving at a book fair, getting kids ready for a summer with their books, I might feel more uncomfortable, which is where I employ you to share your time and talent, where you are uncomfortable. I might feel more uncomfortable at the soup kitchen serving people who have a very different lifestyle than mine. I'll learn in both places, but show up where you're uncomfortable and comfortable. And lastly, I ask you to broker your philanthropy both personally and in your corporation through the investment of your time. That looks like exceptional board leadership. Don't just sit on a board. Be a committed, learning board member wherever you are. Empower your employees to serve meaningfully on boards throughout our community. 2 great board members on 2 separate occasions sat with me for 2 different hours last week. They have great backgrounds professionally in this community. We dug into our strategic plan. We formed committees. We're moving our mission forward. Outside and inside the boardroom, you have the capacity to change community. Mentorship is another incredible brokerage of your time. Find somebody to be a mentor to. From across the lifespan, each of us have benefited from being a mentor or being mentored by someone. The last piece of investing time is friendship. And that sounds warm and it sounds fuzzy and maybe a little squishy. Seek out the friends who don't look like you, who don't sound like you, who don't listen to the same music, and who may have different beliefs. Broker those conversations, open the doors, ask for safe places to learn with one another. That's all philanthropy. You'll find on Go Beyond Profit's website a really great research poll done, I believe it's the Georgia Employee Insights poll, and one of the deciding factors for employees and their happiness with their current employer was simply empathy. It's how your company shows up in empathic ways, both for the employees and for the community. So as you think about your time philanthropically, think about where you and your company can give, serve, and invest time. Reimagine yourself, your corporate culture, your own philanthropy. Lastly, I'll wrap up with Angela. Angela has gone to heaven now. She went on in her late 50s, and her mom ended up with another family member. I visited Angela over and over again while I was pregnant with our second child, and one of the fun things for her as a homebound individual was seeing me show up week over week, just changing physically, and we just had a good time. She always had good advice for me. And I came back from maternity leave, and there was a congratulations on your baby card on my desk, and inside was $10. And remember that Angela lived on Social Security disability, and her mom had Social Security income only. I looked through the employee handbook, and I called her, and I let her know there was absolutely no way I was taking her money, you know. And she schooled me real quick, and she let me know, I wanted to give you that gift. You will take that gift. It is my joy. Angela was the philanthropist first. I hope you enjoy your panel tonight. I hope you think about where you can give, serve, and invest your time. It's an honor to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Well, now I have an even better understanding of why Jon said, no, we have to get Sarah. I'm so glad everybody's here. I want to go ahead and invite up Jon, who I've already introduced, and now Rashe Malcolm, who is not only brought us this amazing food, but is going to come sit on the panel. She is the chef and owner of Rashe's Cuisine. And as Sarah alluded to, she's the founder of Farm to Neighborhood and the Culinary Kitchen of Athens, all located in the historic Iron Triangle District in East Athens. Rashe has been a business owner for 28 years and uses her business to help create the space and opportunities for others in her community. Her focus is on economic development, food insecurities, and helping to close the gap of food deserts, and to provide us with the most amazing food to eat ourselves. We have Bob Googe. Did he already go? There you go. Who's the CEO of Jittery Joe. I just did a jittery move myself. And also CMC Beverage Solutions. Bob brings us, I loved reading your bio, get this background of expertise. Master's in Divinity, CPA, and a professor in executive education, focusing on bottom line profits and the customer experience. He serves in multiple boards, and probably many of you serve with him here in Athens, including the Area Chamber, Compassionate Care Hospice, and the Northeast Georgia Presbytery. So we all know that the landscape around our businesses has changed. We've all been experiencing it on a daily basis. There was a global poll put out by Edelman, their trust poll, that said that business has risen to be the most trusted institution in people's lives. In about 2 weeks, we're going to roll out this year's Go Beyond Profit poll, which will show you that here in Georgia, there's a nuance to that. They trust their employer and local businesses, and they trust you not only to do what is right, but to help them solve the problems that our communities are facing. So the trust is in you as an employer and as a local business. The focus on today's conversation is going to be on the total practical. We talk about business generosity and the notion of investing in generosity, operating with generosity, improving lives. Okay, what does that actually look like? What does that look like in your company on a daily basis, how you make decisions? So this is where I will simply ask the questions, and the experts will weigh in on what it looks like in their business. All right, you took my seat. You got to go over there. You got to go. I have to move over here? Oh, because why? My mic's on the wrong side? Okay.
Mike's on the other side.
Well, so here's the trick for everybody who's watching and for those of you in the room. The reason that they're moving me is because I have a loud laugh. And they need me turned away from my mic so that when I laugh, yes, I don't blow out all of your ears, both virtually and in the room. So that is why they're moving me. Yeah. Okay, well, let's start. Sarah alluded to this in her opening comments, and it's a great place to start. And that is, what is this notion of business generosity to you all as the owners, operators, CEOs? What is the why that drives you? I'm going to let Jon kick this off because I know his answer.
Building better communities.
Right, there you go.
That's what we do. We talk about it every day. We talk about it in every meeting. We talk about it at every quarterly report. You know, Sarah mentioned Simon Sinek and figure out why you do what you do. And, you know, once I figured that piece out for myself and, you know, having learned it, you know, through the years from my father and my mother in South Georgia, you know, growing up in the grocery business and really started talking about it and telling people about it and sharing it, I think our employees appreciate it and gravitated towards it. And, you know, they get to figure out for themselves exactly where they want to fit into that piece. But it's not really an option for us to not fit into that piece if you're going to be the right person for Better Communities Collaborative W&A Engineering. So,
I love it. Rashe, what's your why? Why go beyond profit? Yes, you got to get profit first.
Let's start with how do you get the profit, Jon?
Yeah. You got to get there before you can go beyond it, right?
Exactly. And I told somebody this last night. I mean, you actually, and I've told our employees this because at the end of the day, we have to make money to be able to do this piece, right? I mean, the making money comes first. We got to be good at what we do. We got to be good engineers. We got to be good underground utility locators. We got to be good at making coffee and food and serving the community. But we don't get to do this part without the making money piece first. So.
And I have a great example of that. This weekend, we did a dog race. It was on a farm in Hull. And they asked us to come out, and they were like, look, we've never done this before. We know you have a minimum. We really don't know if you're going to make money, but could you come out and try? And I said, well, sure. You know, I like the idea, and my kids were all excited, and they're like, yeah, let's go. And we got out there, and we went with our basic menu that we usually carry on the truck. And we sold food. However, while I was there, I was asking a lot of the individuals because there were a lot of people I did not know, right? This was not my community, regular community. And I was like, well, what would you like to eat? You know, what would you like to see? Well, what about this? What about that? So the next day we went back because it was a 2-day event. I had everything that everyone asked for. And so they said, well, we know you were going to change the menu, but gosh, you know, you have this and you have that. Now I have so many selections. What do I buy? I said, well, buy it all. You asked for it. And so one of the things that and I will call her a young lady, right, who put together the event, she said, wow, I cannot believe you took us into consideration. She was like, you don't know how much that means. And the fact that, you know, everyone here, I didn't know half these people either. It was over 300 people there. And you took all of us in consideration. And from that, we were able to get more events. And they were like, you know, hey, could you bring this? Could you bring that? And so I think going beyond profit means that, you know, one of the ways that I make profit is the fact that I am very community-centered. And I care about what my community thinks. And I do literally cater, and I cater to that community. And so that, for me, is going beyond profit.
I don't feel like there's a whole lot left to say after those two. When I was in business school, one of the things that they taught us was that the job of the company is to maximize shareholder profits. That was literally the job of the company. You know, and back in the dark ages, we barely had indoor plumbing and lights and everything back when I was in college. Actually, there were some times where that was, the dorms where that was actually close to true. But, you know, no one said anything against that. We just sat there and soaked it up. That's what a company was supposed to do, right? And I don't think you could say that in a business classroom right now without getting some pushback from people. The world has changed some. And I think if you're a super large corporation, you might be able to get away with a little bit of that. But if you're a local business owner, you can't do that. And you realize very quickly that you are enmeshed in the community. So I'll just give you an example. The big green giant, we're in the coffee business, so Starbucks is our major competitor. If someone goes to a Starbucks, and I feel sorry for them if they do, but if they do, and they ask for a donation and Starbucks tells them no, some big corporation is telling them no. When they come to Jittery Joe's, they walk up the stairs to my office and they are talking to the owner of the company, and so it's personal. The owner of the company is saying yes or no, and that really matters. So even if you wanted to, you could not get away, I don't think, successfully having a small business if you were just about maximizing shareholder profit. Benjamin Franklin said a long, long time ago, the philosophy is to do well by doing good, right? You got to make the profit first, and then you can do good things. And part of that for Jittery Joe's comes out of quite frankly, the sort of the faith basis of the two major owners. The president of Jittery Joe's, Michael Rips, is very active in Congregation Children of Israel. I was a full-time Presbyterian minister for a long time. Both of those faith traditions emphasize doing good things in your community and doing them quietly. Our ad firm is always saying, you need to promote more of what you do. And I'm like, no, you need to promote more of what we do because we don't talk about it. That's just not what you do. You just do it because it's the right thing to do. So it's sort of baked into our DNA. I think local businesses make decisions every single day that actually reduce shareholder value, right? I mean, probably like everybody up here, any small business owner, we have given raises to people who didn't deserve raises but needed raises. We've loaned money for down payments, interest-free, for people who needed to buy a house and they didn't quite have it, but they worked. This is just the kind of thing that you do as a small business owner. When your kids are going to school with your employees' kids, right, and they're playing on the same clubs, and you're seeing them at synagogue or at church or at the Rotary, it has to work. It has to work.
I appreciate, Bob, that you're pointing out how the conversation over the decades has changed. It's changed rather dramatically, and quite frankly, it feels like it went through this expedited moment in the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
So each of your industries and businesses faced different pressure points. Can you think of a pressure point that tested your why and how you needed to move through it? Is there a moment you could? Bob's got one already. Yeah.
If you've been in business for over 20 years like we have, actually, guys, it's pushing 30 at this point. There's been more than one. Of course, the pandemic comes to mind immediately. So since we've all been talking about that, I'll talk about something else. But in 08 and 09, the Great Recession, Jittery Joe's had just launched a franchise company in 07, opened a bunch of stores in about 6 months, and then the recession hit and the economy fell off the cliff. Some people don't remember it. I remember it very, very well. Business here in Athens dropped 35% overnight, and we had to make really painful decisions about who to keep and who to let go, because does the ship stay afloat or does it sink? You can't continue to do business the same way or the whole thing is going under. And so in the middle of that is also your commitment to the community. So when you're looking at, this is horrible. It was one of those awful situations where you're looking at it going, I have 2 really good employees. One of them has a spouse who has a solid job. One of them's spouse just lost their job. I have to let the one whose spouse has a solid job go so that this person can stay on. We made those decisions day after day for a while. It was awful, but that's sort of what you have to do. So that was an inflection point where we also, actually, quite frankly, we got better as a company in 08, 09, because we did a better job of looking at our cost needs and our employee needs and taking better care of the people that we did have rather than just adding people. Okay, let's get people that we can keep and invest in and who will invest in us, so that when times get tough, we figure it out together. I had some folks that would come to me and go, I haven't had a raise in a year, and I haven't gotten paid in a year. I'm so like, you have a job and get paid. I have a job and I don't get paid. So can we all just take a deep breath and keep moving, please? So you want to keep the folks who are like, okay, I'm in it with you. We're going to get through it together. When it comes out, everybody's going to benefit. But that 08, 09 was awful.
Well, and it's applicable not just
It was,
then.
and it sort of repeated itself.
It's sort of,
and-
there are cycles that will, yeah. So Rashe, your focus on food insecurity and being an industry leader here in the food space, probably a few stressors that tested your why over the last 2 years?
Child.
Preach it, sister. Go ahead.
I like Bob was getting ready to jump on the mic like, I got one. My case was kind of a little reverse. So we had a time, we were originally on Tallahassee Road, which is on the west side, and we were relatively unknown. We had, been doing catering and some other things, but I also had, I was a contractor for the EPA at the time. And so, the dramatic story is I fell off of this building during the ice storm, and I didn't break everything. I just, busted up a lot. So you see me keep adjusting. And I had a workers' comp doctor who said, well, did you ever think maybe God threw you off the roof so you can go back to jerking chicken? And I said, okay. So we decided, to take our life savings and open the spot on Tallahassee. And I will tell you, the first 6 months, I had about, 10 employees. We were rocking and rolling. Everything was beautiful. And then I would say probably the 6 month one day, I was like, hello, do y'all know we're still open? And things started to kind of go down. But we held out and we stayed in business. And then there came a point where we were coming into the 5th year. And everybody was like, oh my God, you're still in business. It's going on 5 years. You're going to do great. And then we had a gas leak. We had a fire. We had a flood. The property got sold.
I hope Moses showed up and lead you out of that.
And so it turned out that the community ended up being there for us. So what happened was when you were talking about you do good works and you don't talk about it, I grew up the same way. I'm Presbyterian too, by the way. I grew up the same way. You didn't talk about it. That's just not what you did. It came across as bragging or that you didn't do it from a good heart. And so all the things that I had been doing, quote unquote, in the dark had come to light. Those very people who remembered when I was there for them and I fed them a plate or I fed their family or I gave them money or helped with a hotel or organizations that, had a $75 budget need to feed 500 people, no, this is all true stories. Don't ask me now. I know better. But, they were all there for us and helped carried us through. And so we ended up on the Vine Street area. And excuse me, the beautiful story of that is, of these two gentlemen who's sitting up here is, when we got our food truck, Bob was there for us. Matter of fact, my truck still sits at Jittery Joe's, and we laughed when he got here that I have an office at his space, because it's true. When I need to have meetings, I have them at Jittery Joe's in Bob's office. And Jon here, I can't even, let's just say this man does not make it known the many wonders that he helps in people's lives. But he reached out to me, and at first I was really nervous because I was like, okay, I don't know him. What does he want? And we got to talking, and we got together, and we're kind of like the odd couple, the most unlikely pair you would think. But when I tell you he has been teaching me some things, and I've been listening, and I've been a steward to learn how to make big profit and be able to share it with the community the way it should be, and to be able to have employees who are well taken care of and who will have good things to say about me behind my back. Those are the type of things that I've gone through. So yes, I've had some points that made me want to pull out my hair and quit, but a lot of these people that are sitting in this room who know me have personally touched me and helped me, and I could literally go down the list of examples. But, shout out to Athens.
So there seems to be, at this moment in time, a real sense of urgency in the business community that demonstrating generosity needs to be inside your business as well as outside. And if there's any cry of this great resignation or great reassessment that we're facing, it's employees reimagining what kind of their why is on a daily basis and how they might fit with yours. So tell us what you're seeing in your own industry around this notion of what does it look like to care for your employees and operate generously inside. What are you seeing? What's meaningful to your employees?
I mean, I feel like that for us, I started down this journey probably in 2018, where we were reimagining the company, trying to create a generationally sustainable business, trying to recognizing the fact that, like it or not, pre-COVID, I mean, the next generation of employees that we're all going to have are the kids that are coming out of college. They outnumber us. I mean, and we're getting older and they're coming in. So starting to look at it from that standpoint, and then hitting COVID and having to deal with that, really for us, I know there is a great resignation. I know people exited the workforce, but what we see more of than the great resignation is just people who were stuck in a certain way of doing things, and engineering company operates this way. You come out of college, you work 60 hours a week, you don't ask any questions, you just do what you do, and then maybe you get to be to the next level and then the next level. And that's just, and maybe that would have kept on for another 4 or 5 years, I think. But somehow COVID affected that in a very dramatic and intense way, to where whether it was young people or middle-aged people or middle management people or whatever it was, everybody was like, listen, so we kept working, we kept doing what we were doing, the company stayed afloat, the work got done, and you mean we didn't have to do it like you told us we had to do it. So people realized, I think, that there's an opportunity to do things a different way, and I'm grateful that we were sort of ahead of the curve, because we were thinking about that in 2018 before other companies were probably thinking about it. So for us, it's all about the talent. At the end of the day, most of you guys that own businesses, probably everybody up here, at the end of the day, is gonna fall back to the talent. Who gets it, who retains it, and who has the best talent. And we just get out there and we tell our story. We tell about the ways that the employee now has more flexibility, more control, more transparency, and we're still able to make a profit. And the other companies are looking at it going, well, if you can do it, we can do it. So for us, it's less of the great resignation and more of kind of the great realization, I think, that times are changing, and they just happen to change a little quicker than what anybody was expecting, like overnight. So
I think for my industry, everybody's talking about the great recreation. So the conversation in the food industry or service industry is, we've always had issues with people coming in and out. We've always had issues about whether or not, there's enough pay being paid. Are the benefits good enough? Does the work and pay equal each other? I think a lot of smaller businesses typically paid more because we didn't have as great a benefits. And a lot of the larger corporations paid less but had better benefits. And now we're finding those things are kind of equilibrating. I know for me, I have a smaller business. We have a lot of roller coaster in the industry, just because a lot of it is also because we have cultured food. So, it's an acquired taste. And we're also far off in a community where, we really are a destination. You're not coming over there unless you're coming to get some food. Sorry, these allergies are killing me. But so I think now we're seeing a lot of a balance. A lot of companies are now offering smaller businesses like myself better benefit packages that is something that, we can either afford, or if our employees want to take advantage of it, it's something that they can afford as well. I'm seeing a lot more of the larger corporations now paying larger pay. but then they're also offering even better benefits. So then it's like, well, dang, come on, let me catch up. And so, but we still, because of the nature of our industry, we still are going to see a lot of that turnover. And when you talk about what you were able to do different in engineering that you probably weren't able to do before, one of the things that COVID hit, I remember people laughed at me because I run everything like a jerk shack. I run it through a window. So you walk up to a window, you buy your food, I give it back to you out of a window, and you go home and eat it, and then tell everybody you cooked it. And so before, people would laugh at me and say, you're never going to make any money. You know, people can't sit down. You know, people want to eat. They want to have a good beer. You know, you serve Jamaican food. They want, you know, a little rum and, you know, da-da. And now everybody's got like the business shut and they're running it through a window, right? So we were definitely ahead of the curve. And so I think those type of transitions we're seeing have some positive changes on the industry. But then at the same time, I mean, industry as a whole, we're still going to continue to see issues. And some of that is also customer relations. You talk about the younger kids coming out, and, you know, this generation is very, you are not disrespecting me, period. I don't care who, where, when, where, how. And, you know, when I was coming up, you know, somebody would, you know, be a little rude to you, and you have a nice day and a smile. Here's your food. Thank you. You're welcome. Come back to see us. And now they're like, look, you don't want this food? Don't come back, you know? And so it's going to be very, very interesting to see over the next couple of years, like, you know, did the money and the better benefits really, really, really affect our industry enough to give it that stability that a lot of other industries are able to see? Come on, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah, I looked at this question and I was like, are you kidding? We probably had more turnover in the last 2 years we've had in the last 10 combined. You know, when the university basically closed down and went virtual, we employ a lot of college students. And a lot of their parents said, I'm, you know, not paying that kind of money for you to live there, come home. And so half my workforce went home. It's sort of the deal that Jittery Joe's has done ever for 20-something years for employees is, it's not a great paying job, right? But it is a steady job, and you make good tips. And between the tips and we pay above minimum wage, so it's not like a server wage. You know, people are making 15, 16 bucks an hour, so that's not bad, right? In college town, part-time, you go home smelling like coffee. That's not a bad deal. But the deal was always that if you need time off, if you have spring break or you have finals, you need to take time off, or your band gets booked to picked up, and you need to go on the road for 3 months. When you come back, you still have your shift. You don't just still have your job, you have your shift. And so it was sort of a trade-off. We'll give you flexibility, and you sort of give us loyalty, and it'll work. And then during the COVID and sort of since then, the Great Resignation, that whole thing is sort of upside down. Honestly, I think we're still trying to figure out how to work that and what people want. It was easy when everybody wanted flexibility and we could provide stability and flexibility. And now we're trying to figure out what exactly is it they're looking for. And honestly, I'm not sure that we know yet. Because there are some things we could do. We could pay more. We could get. I'm not sure they know. That's a good point. And we could pay more. We could add more benefits. But if you're a small business, what's happening right now is that with supply chain crisis and inflation and consumables, you know, our margin compression is crazy. Okay, so at the very time that maybe more money and more benefits would be beneficial, our margins have plummeted. Right, so it's. I think everybody there is trying to figure it out.
It's interesting. I think John's pointed out something. So I alluded to this Georgia-based survey that we'll have out here in the next 2 weeks. We asked a lot of questions about this to employed adults. And if you take compensation off the table, you say, yes, we know you're all looking for compensation. What is it that you're looking for? What is it that defines the company that you want to work for? The number one thing they said is they want to maintain the flexibility, that people got used to it. They want to maintain it. Number two was they need mental health support. There were over 20 things they could pick from. And they said, we need mental health support. The number two reason they say they're leaving their job, mental health. And so it's an interesting, to your point of they don't know yet, there's a fragility in, and I just was curious, if they're saying that, are you seeing it? I was going to say.
I realize I just finished, and it's probably not my turn, but since we hire a lot of college students, I will say that it is obvious to us. We have probably between the stores, we have 100 and something employees, most of them college students. The mental health crisis in that demographic is off the rails. I mean, off the rails. The people who have just like lost it, people who were solid, you know, a year ago, who have just lost it 3 or 4 times at work, and I used to be a full-time minister. You know, half the time I'm back into my counseling thing, you know, just come by my office, give them a chance to cry, give them a chance to put together, get themselves back together, go home, you know, try again tomorrow. It is epidemic, I think. And so dancing with that too, when you have people who call up and go, I can't come to work because I can't get out of bed. And you're like, okay. You know, and I have a 24-year-old daughter who just graduated from college, and I know she's experienced some of that, even though she's an employed professional at this point. And in her demographic, I mean, it's tough. And so that flexibility has to be even more flexible. Things that used to get you let go, right?
Yes.
Okay, no call, no show.
Yes.
Used to be, you know, 2 no call, no shows, and you don't work here anymore.
Right.
Now, if we call and find out where you are, and you're like, I'm in bed, I've been crying all night long, you're going to fire that person? No, you're going to say, who can we call? Who can we get you to see? Let me make a phone call and see if I can get you to see a counselor, a pastor, whatever it is that you need. But it is an enormous problem.
I think that, the pandemic exacerbated mental health to a degree that we've probably never seen, or I've certainly never seen in my lifetime. I mean, I was a witness to it in my own household. My wife taking care of our 2 youngest kids day in, day out, trying to homeschool them effectively, keep them up to speed, do her job. Thankfully, she had a very flexible part-time job at the time. And I think that, you put on top of that the stresses that we already put on our people at the workplace to do their job, and everything just really got spun up to another level. But I also believe, and mental health is something that, hits pretty close to home for me. I can tell you, I've never suffered from depression, but I have multiple family members that have. And so I've been around it, I've seen it, I've watched it, and I think we're talking about it more today than we ever have. So I think people are comfortable talking about it more today than we ever have. If you'd have asked that same question in 2009, during the middle of the Great Recession, with everybody losing their job, you probably wouldn't have got the same answer. I really think it's been in the last 10 years or so that we have, highlighted that as something that we're willing to have a conversation about. And whether you're talking about it because of the craziness of these mass shootings that we have, or whether you're talking about it because of the pandemic or whatever it is, whatever reason created the time that is now for us to discuss this and talk about it and be able to not turn away from it. I mean, I'm grateful for it because it needs to happen.
We saw a lot of mental health issues and discussions for many, many years in the service industry. There's actually a lot of large nonprofits that actually help those in the service industry who deal with mental health challenges. But in the last couple of years, you're right. I know 3 or 4 people who have opened up organizations just because of the issues.
It's almost like work came back into everybody's home, and now part of they're more fuller selves as they enter the workforce. Again, they're bringing it all back.
And one of the things that, and I'll give full credit to this because I'll get in trouble if I don't, but Accenture did a study one of our Go Beyond Profit members, Chloe
Yeah.
Barza, is it right?
Barca, yeah.
She and I got to be buddies at one of our events, and she sent me the information. They did a study right at kind of in the middle of the pandemic, with their 200,000 plus employees, and it was what causes an employee to be net better off, and there were 6 things in that they came up with from all that study. One of them was mental health, physical health, knowing your path to success, flexibility. They're different things. And I mean, I call it, when we were developing our Sustainability for All platform, which focuses on employees, community, and world, I mean, I just flat out called her and asked her if we could steal it. I mean, I was like, this is great. I mean, I'm never going to get a data point from 200,000 people, and plus, what's behind it, the words behind it are so effective and there's not any, if you look at, I mean, it's a pie chart, literally, and every piece of it is the same size. So it doesn't matter if you know your work path and you've got flexibility if your mental health is bad, or, it takes all of it to really, for that employee, for that person to be net better off, which is what we want at the end of the day. That's what's going to give them the ability to be happiest at work, happiest at home, stay for the long term, stuff like that.
So, as we said in the very beginning, that small business and your employer are your most trusted institution in your lives. And that took the full gamut. We asked them about all sizes of government, media, all sizes of business, nonprofits, all sorts of institutions, and they said, my employer's number one. I trust them the most. But they ask for employers to tackle the problems that are outside of work as well, that ecosystem around work. Have you all been asked to engage as owners, operators, CEOs? Have you been asked by your employees or your customers to engage in a specific societal issue? And if so, how's that felt? How do you make a decision? How do you wrestle that request? Go for it.
I'll go first. So yes, because people see me a lot in the community, doing a lot of different work, they believe that I'm just gonna, champion for all the causes. And I have had to say to them, I know food, and I champion food. And so if we're talking about food, let's go for it. Depending on what they're doing, if you want me to have food on the side of the road, giving it to people, march and walk, I'm there, But there are some fights that a lot of times I just don't know enough about. And I don't want to be fake and phony. And I can't just jump on every single cause just because, that's what somebody wants me to do. Because it has to be true to me. And so the worst thing you could do is be around the corner and we're fighting for, let's say animals. Please, nobody don't think I don't like animals. I love animals. I'm just allergic to them. So for me to be around the corner and fighting for animals, and then I go to this corner and then you see me complaining about, all the Benadryl I got to take after I've been around them, to me, that's not genuine. And I have to be genuine in what I do. And because my entire business has always been need-based, even though I'm in the food industry, it's always been need-based. And so people depend on me to be real. And so in order for me to do that, I have to champion causes that I know and that are true to me. Now, are there new things that I have learned? Absolutely. But do I then take them on and pretend like I'm the expert? Absolutely not. So that's my take on how I deal with outside champion. But I'm definitely supportive of many different, excuse me, I'm so sorry, I'm so nasally. I'm very, very supportive of a lot of different issues that are out there because I recognize that they are important to the community. And I'm not blind to that. But to lend my name and then, stand at the front line, that's not something I can do for every single thing.
I love it. Who wants to jump in?
Loaded question.
This is, it's such a no-win situation. And maybe this is old school, but to me, the primary job of a business, or at least my business, is to provide decent jobs for people to earn enough money to go out and be involved in the causes and the things that they want to do with their lives. And then to provide a commodity or a service or something that the community needs and wants. Not for me to be on the forefront of every march and every issue. And I learned this early on when I got the 5 Point store, Gulf War I popped up, and from the time we closed at night to the time we opened in the morning, someone had put a sign in our front planter that said, "War is not the answer," which I think seems pretty innocuous, personally. But my phone started ringing at like 6:30 in the morning, accusing me of not supporting the troops and not being a patriot and not, and all this kind of stuff. And it rang all day long. So I had my employees take the sign down, and the next day, my phone rang all day long from people wanting to know, was I, a warmonger? Did I, support bombing innocent civilians and wherever? I mean, it's a no-win situation. And so typically, we actually train our employees to not get involved in political discussions with customers, because you can't win. You can't win. It's a no-win situation. But then to encourage them to invest themselves in the causes that they want to invest in their own private lives, and provide them with the time and hopefully the resources to do that. Now, I mean, there are times, obviously, where it's so egregious that you feel like no matter what flack you're going to get, you sort of have to step forward and say something. But when you do that in the sure knowledge that someone is going to push back on the other side of that and say you shouldn't have done it. But you have to know, this is a great example. Maybe it's not a great example, but it's my example. During the Black Lives Matter movement, when it was sort of at its height and people were on the streets, Jittery Joe's on our Instagram page, one day, all we put was Black Lives Matter. Right? That didn't move. That was just there all day long. And I got a lot of phone calls. And I got a lot people saying, if you really think Black Lives Matter, then you should quit giving free coffee to police officers. And we give free coffee to all uniformed people, firefighters, EMS, police officers, military in uniform, just as a thank you, right? We don't make a big deal of it, we just do it. But we knew when we did that we were going to get some pushback on that, but it just simply felt like it was enough of a big deal that we needed to just say it, But it was not free. I mean, social media can just destroy you overnight. That it can, right? I mean, no good deed goes unpunished.
Never.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I mean, I learned early on. I mean, I started the company at 26 years old, and, for folks that knew me back then, probably as direct as I am today, I was way worse back in 26. Didn't hold back a whole lot then, thought it was good, say whatever you wanted to, whenever you wanted to. And you realize, what I realized is once I started building a group of employees and trying to create a culture of inclusivity, that, as I was raised by my mom, I have to be tolerant of all people and all things. I may have my own political views, I may vote the way I'm going to vote, but I don't carry it to work with me at all. And when we hit about 25 or 30 employees, I had an incident, person to remain unnamed, but that got really upset and felt really awkward because a large part of the people that person was sitting around in the office was kind of harassing them about who they voted for in a political election. And I mean, that's when I realized we just can't do that. That's not what that workplace is for. As far as causes go, we last year, again, our Sustainability for All corporate citizenship platform, for our community causes, we polled our employees, we found out what was near and dear to them. We picked ones that everyone could get behind: housing, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and education. And if you can't find one of those three things as an employee of our company to get behind, then that's you probably aren't the right person for us at the end of the day. But we also support our employees by giving them a couple days off a year to go support causes that they want to support. And while we may have an organized event around MLK Day, we give them another day or two a year that they can go volunteer wherever they want to and spend their time and their efforts wherever they want to. Even our charity of choice, the charity that we this year for us in Athens is a Habitat for Humanity. Last year it was Books for Keeps. I didn't pick that. Our employees voted on that. They picked that. That's how we decide who we're going to support outwardly year in, year out. But we try to discourage. Everything's so divisive these days, guys. Like you said, no political discussions. You just can't go there right now with where things are. So we try to keep it out of the workplace as much as possible.
Well, I think the survey will also show you that what you're all talking about, that notion of knowing your company's values, knowing your values yourself as the leader of the company, and rooting your decisions in those values helps employees see the authenticity, that sense of grounding to the decisions. I think you'll also find, we actually found that over the pandemic, most leaders were very concerned that their company cultures blew up with flexibility. And our study actually showed that when you offer flexibility, all of a sudden your values are so much more important to them. And they mean more, they adhere to them more, they see them working in your company more, they're more attached as soon as they have that. So as sort of I'm booking right through this, but each of you have been running businesses.
Talking a lot.
I love it. Each of you have been running businesses for a good long time now. Can you tell me, if you were going to talk to your 26-year-old self, the founder, this person who launched this career, if you were going to talk to that person to say you're going to need to get ready to lead like this, what do you think has been the biggest evolution that you've faced as the leader of a business? What would you need to prep that 26-year-old for?
No, it's a slow evolution over time, but if I look back from now till then, it's pretty dramatically different. And a lot of it is driven not just about who I was. I do believe I had the values then that I have today. But when you start a company, and I'm looking at faces out there of people that I know who did, when you start that company and it's just you don't have a lot of time for that at the very beginning. There's a lot of, you're worried about eating, and just getting to the next day. And once you get past that 5-year period and then you go through a Great Recession and then you finally, so for me, it was really like that 2015, 2016 time, and I've been in business for nearly 20 years before I was able to take a breath and go, okay, what do I really want this to be? Like, what do I really want this to look like? And when I went back and started soul searching and looking at, how I grew up, how my dad raised me to be in the grocery store, what I wanted for our employees, then, that's where our values came from. That's where our why came from. So, I don't know that there's anything you could go back and tell a 26-year-old that will prepare you to be a CEO of a company for 130 people, when you start it. It just kind of evolves through time, I think. So.
And so what would you say is the biggest evolution in who you are, like as a leader? As you've changed, you've grown?
Probably, and I've got some employees out here that are going to just laugh when I say this, but probably being a little more diplomatic. Right. Just taking a breath, taking a minute, thinking about what you're going to say before you say it. And I had this conversation with somebody the other day. They were like, it must be nice to be a CEO. You get to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And I'm like, dude, like, are you kidding me? Like, I can't do anything without everybody that is around me kind of looking at it going, that's what he's doing. Then that's what we get, that's how we need to do, or whatever, or so, yeah, I mean, having to think about really being a great example, and some of that starts with kids and parenthood. I mean, I was 26, I didn't have a kid till I was 30, the company was 4 years old by then, so the company probably taught me a little bit about being a dad, but yeah, probably being just a little more diplomatic.
He did say just a little.
It's not much, Bob.
I don't
Yeah.
even
got
work for
time.
you, and I know.
Rashe, how about you?
That's pretty easy because I started at 17. So the word no is powerful. It's a universal language that I'm still trying to learn at 47. And boundaries are healthy because no matter what you do, it's going to be wrong to somebody. So you might as well be right to yourself. And I will say for me, because I am trying to pass on the legacy, I made my son, who's over there, shout out son, hey, he's the new general manager of my restaurant. And when you talk about a CEO and doing what you want, I have to remind him all the time. I'm like, dude, like I own the company, my name's on it, and I just took a vacation this year. I've been in business almost 30 years. My husband and I have been married almost 20 years. We just took, you might as well call it our honeymoon. We just took our first trip by ourselves with no children. So, thank you. So I try to remind them all the time, like, you have to be on time. Matter of fact, you need to be earlier than the employees. You need to do this and do that and do this and do that. So the very things that I say to him are things that I definitely would have made sure that I said to myself back then. So
That's a great answer. Yeah. And congratulations on the vacation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, we could share stories, couldn't we?
All we did was sleep.
I know. I mean,
That's it.
I understand.
No fun, sleep.
Listen. So I would, it's interesting, I got the most time to think about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I would say, because when I started my first business when I was 12, I mean, being an entrepreneur is a disease.
Exactly.
Once you get it, if you're bit by it, you're bit by it. And I say this when I talk to classes at UJ all the time. If it doesn't fire you up to be an entrepreneur, you will make more money working for somebody else and you'll sleep better. Go do that. Because that person needs you anyway. Desperately. Right? I desperately need great employees. But so three things, actually, I think. One is focus. A challenge for many entrepreneurs, and particularly me, is that we get shiny object syndrome. Squirrel, that's a good idea. We should do that too. And next thing you know, you're doing 15 things. The word no is powerful. You need to tell it to yourself. Don't do that. Focus on what's in front of you. The other one, I think, as I've gotten older, that I would say to myself is don't be afraid to lead. I was always very good at doing. I could launch a business from scratch and get it up and running, but then building out the organization and leading and guiding the people in it has something that literally, I'm 60 and probably that is finally, I've been able to do that comfortably in the last 10 years. But I've been in business on and off since I was 12, right? Had my first employee when I was 14. And then the last one, and I think this one is huge, and I've just started realizing this and watching other people around me, is that I think the CEO and the owner needs to be the center of calm in the storm. When everybody else gets mad, my job is to not be mad. My job is to take a deep breath and step back and try to, when people are mad, anger is fear. Fear that I'm going to lose an account, fear that I'm going to lose my job, fear that someone's going to attack me. Whatever anger, it's you're afraid. And people make the worst decisions of their life when they are afraid. Right? You do not make good decisions when you're afraid. So a CEO's job is to not be afraid, even when everybody else around them is afraid. To take a deep breath and try to objectively look at it and help other people calm down and make better decisions. It doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't afraid. It just means they need to be the non-afraid presence in the room. And so if you interviewed my employees, almost none of them have ever seen me mad because I think it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I mean, my job is to make the thing work, and ultimately it's my job to make the thing work, and if I'm losing my temper, then things aren't getting done.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, This has been a remarkable conversation, and I thank you. I had known Jon before, but I thank you that he's introduced me to the two of you and to so many here. And I hope for those of you that are watching us on live stream that you will come to the gobeyondprofit.org website and stay with us for longer. We'll say goodbye to you on live stream.